Hey guys, what is going on? It is me, PecuriBox12 here. Before I went to bed tonight, I wanted to make a video addressing my thoughts and opinions on the most recent Realm of the Mad God update, at least by the time I'm recording this. So today, Deca gave us quite a bit of content, like a very, very substantial amount of things to do, and I'm very pleased with how this turned out. There are very few things, if any, that I'm actually kind of iffy about. So props to Deca, first of all, fantastic job. I know people were kind of complaining about them not doing much for the past couple of months. You know, after we had Month of the Mad God, there were those chest events and just nothing was really happening. So if you somehow have not heard about what was added, we have 3 new dungeons that correspond to a difficulty, easy, medium, and hard, new UT items that drop from said dungeons, and a few additional miscellaneous changes. Let's get those out of the way since they're the most minute. The Shatters Portal was changed to how it was originally meant to look. Instead of being a darker gray undead layer portal, it actually looks like something that would be the Shatters Portal. It has more of a stone block texture to it in addition to having moss, so it just feels and looks more appropriate. Also, the Alchemist is finally back. I'm eager to try that out again, that's pretty cool. And then the most controversial thing from this update is the removal, or rather drop reduction, of defense potions from the Abyss of Demons. Everybody knows how broken and exploitable the Abyss of Demons was because if you soloed it, you could get a Vitality and a defense potion. 2 for 1. Now, however, only Vitality is guaranteed. The chances of you getting one here now are more similar to the Sprite world. It has a chance of dropping Death at the boss, but it's not very likely. So no longer is this your primary source of defense, which means like half of my videos are out of date now. The countless people I told that abysses were your salvation, I'm a liar now. But is this a good change? That's the big question. Personally, I'm fine with it. I mean, I'm not, because, oh great, now I gotta go farm for defense somewhere else. But at the same time, this is how the Abyss was originally made. It only dropped Vitality before, and the only way that you could possibly get defense was via Godlands, Oryx, or trading. That was it. And since by the time you had a maxed out melee, it was kind of a joke, you could easily farm them over and over to max out your Vitality and defense on multiple characters. And the problem with that is that it's a huge contrast to all of the other dungeons. I know you probably think like, oh, isn't that what makes the Abyss unique and good? Yeah, it kind of did, but it was incredibly unbalanced. Now, Foulfell, the Prince of Darkness, brought up a very good point in his video, saying that if they were going to leave a stat potion in the Abyss of Demons, it should have been the defense, and take out the Vitality instead. I'm a little partial to that, because that way the dungeon is still only dropping 1 type of stat pot, not 2, so it's balanced. But I don't really think I'm qualified to say whether it should drop Vitality or defense. I think that's up to Deca, really. But it's not like they completely eliminated defense from the picture, because in exchange for taking the defense out of the Abyss, they put it into the newly implemented Sewer Dungeon. So now you have a very big incentive to do this new dungeon. And now is a pretty good time to talk about those. Alright, let's start off with the Hive. This is a new player-friendly dungeon. It's not meant to be challenging for those with maxed out characters and who have been playing for many years. It's basically another forest maze or spider den, but I think I find it to be a little bit more challenging because of how many debuffs there are. You've got daze, bleeding, and slowing, all in the same low-tier dungeon. Granted, the forest maze did have confusion, one of the most detrimental new player debuffs, and not even new players. If you don't know how to confuse control, it's still a nightmare. But I'm very pleased that we didn't just get another pirate cave. Although I am a tad disappointed it wasn't a bit more challenging, because I'll say this right now, I love the way that this dungeon looks. It's not an obnoxiously bright shade of yellow, but it's not super dark and gross either. But that's why I can't help but feel just a little bit disappointed, because while I really love the dungeon aesthetically, I don't really see myself doing too many of these in the future. It does, however, drop a dexterity potion, wine cellar incantation, in addition to the new scepter and orb. So there is a reason to do this, for sure. But the queen bee is located in the same area that the wasp queen is in. So I won't be doing this dungeon as much as I would like to because I don't spend as much time in that area. When I find one, oh yeah, you better believe I'm gonna do it. It's short, it's easy, and to the point. And there's very little doubt in my mind that while the realm is closed and I'm hunting these down, I may be tempted to go into one of these Hive dungeons as opposed to Oryx. Maybe. It's a bit of a stretch. It's a really cool dungeon, it's great for new players, not too challenging, but it doesn't hold their hand either, and they actually get a potion for it. Like if you do the Pirate Cave, you don't get anything for that. But if you do the Hive, you get dexterity. Or in my case, you won't get anything, even if you solo it. I assume this is just because it's new though. They'll patch the drop rates in a bit if they haven't already. Next up is the Toxic Sewers. Dropped by the Slime God. Yes, another god of the realm has a portal that it can drop. So the Toxic Sewers is meant to be the in-between point of the 3 dungeons. It's medium difficulty like the Abyss abyss of demons. Now, I was only able to do one, but there is an unexpected amount of damage that the enemies can do. But this is definitely my favorite of the three in terms of structure. It's very reminiscent of the sewer level from Nuclear Throne, so we're already off to a good start. It's designed like an actual sewer system, with sewage in the very middle of the pathways, reducing your movement speed if you stand in it. So if you wish to remain mobile, you'll have to go on the sides. And because of the constant presence of this slowing, it requires you to take your time and really take in and absorb the atmosphere instead of just rushing through it, which will most definitely still happen. I also can't help but feel like a Ninja Turtle running around. I think it's just in my blood at this point, and from what I've seen, there are actually 4 turtle enemies, red, orange, blue, and purple respectively, and they can drop a power pizza, so it's pretty obvious at that point. But I really enjoyed navigating myself through it, and I look forward to doing many more in the future. I think my favorite enemy is the alligator. We've already seen slimes, bats, and goblins before. True, we have the rats. True, they're cool. Alligators. It just wins. The boss, though, is pretty crazy. It's a buffed slime god. What I really like about it is how it behaves like an actual slime, splitting up into smaller, weaker forms of itself, before amalgamating once more. Also, it can armor break you from what I've seen. That's no good. At this point in time though, like I said, I've only done one of these, so I don't really know how the boss works yet. It's funny because people were already asking me to do a Toxic Sewers guide, both jokingly and seriously. And yeah, eventually I will do it. This is a really cool dungeon and it looks fairly simple to understand, so you can expect that in the near future. But I want to prioritize the cemetery guide because Halloween is coming up. So a really cool dungeon and a decent challenge. I love it, and I kind of have to love it because it's our primary source of death now. But the big thing that everyone has been doing is the Puppet Master's Encore. This was teased at us a little while ago, but now we have a final polished version of the fight. It's dropped by Janice the Door Warden, who can only be found after clearing the entire Oryx castle, so he was always real out of the way and just not really worth it. Thanks to this update though, now he's worth it, and he even drops a few more potions. But the drop that I'm looking for is the Spiteful Spiteful Shield. It only costs 90 MP, deals between 400 and 600 damage, and the stun is of a higher duration than Colossus, but it has different stats and less shots, meaning you can't just spam it and hit everything in front of you. You have to properly aim in front of you, and if you can do that, well then, you're broken, even more so. Yinarn's gonna be mad. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that the Toxic Sewers boss, Gulpor the Slime God, in addition to defense, drops the new UT Poison and Katana, which essentially drops bombs, and I love me some ninja, so I pray I can get my hands on that. So anyway, once you kill Janice, the portal opens, you talk to Craig, and then you go to the Puppet Master's Encore. Or you just use a key, like we were. Alright, so this is one of the most thrilling experiences I've had in Realm of the Mad God. This is the definition of a bullet hell boss. In a large group of people, man was it hard to tell when the bullets were coming at me. I swear I was having a sensory overload. You've got all these bullets flying at you constantly. Meanwhile, these puppet clones and status puppets are being spawned, some of them lying dormant, unable to be damaged until they were eventually awakened. And on Silver Dollar's stream, everybody was saying that one of these things flying around was Keemsanic, or Sanic the Keemstar. He's fast. That's all you need to know. I don't know. Where did the Keemstar part come from? For anybody who saw the stream, you know what I'm talking about. That was hilarious. But seriously, one of these puppet minions flies all the way around the perimeter of the room, constantly firing away its own kind of EP shot. All the shots are coming from its center. So if you sit on it, I don't know if you can get popped, but nobody's gonna try. If you're lucky enough, you can get your hands on the new Prism of Dire Instability, which instead of teleporting you will send out a decoy that explodes, and the 1000-shot bow with a 200% rate of fire, 7.6 range, and an average of 85 damage. That's gonna be insane. But what I love about this boss fight is that it really made the game feel like a team experience, a team-based game, a multiplayer game. I felt like I was really a part of a big fight. I was over here being a coward because what even is this? But I was still occasionally getting my damage in. Meanwhile, the guildies are taking out the mini puppets. And it felt very coordinated. It felt like we were playing our own equal part. And because it didn't die in 5 seconds and it was super hard, it was memorable. This is great. I love this boss, and it's possible. It's not an impossible feat, not by any means. It's very hard, but not once did I really feel like I could get popped at any moment. Maybe in the beginning, but after a couple, wasn't so bad. And I'm really glad that I got to be a part of this, because when Shatters came out oh so long ago, that was a time where I was really not playing Realm much. I was focusing on school, I was kind of sick of the game, I was making videos on things I knew, and not many people that I knew were still playing Realm. But now that I'm in Chest, oh yeah, by the way, I joined Chest, I feel like I'm a part of a guild. I've got a big group of people that I can hop on, talk to, and play with. It really feels like a community-based experience now. So I love this update, I think it was great, and I look forward to all of the updates that Deca brings in the future. Now, Now, while I was editing this video, Deca actually released a small patch, a hotfix, to improve a few things that people brought to their attention. First, they changed the Puppet Master's Encore spawn point further away from the wall because apparently players were getting stuck. That never happened to me, but I'm glad that that got patched. Also, the player limit for the Court of Oryx and Puppet Master's Encore has been increased. So now more people can go at the same time, which I'm pretty happy with because there were plenty of times where I got shut down and the portal filled up before I could go in, so I think that was a bit necessary. But the Toxic Sewers now has a much more increased likelihood of dropping. That's something I know a lot of people were complaining with. Deca releases this new dungeon and it barely even drops. So a fairly common drop for a dungeon that is essentially our main source of def is a good idea. In addition, the defense potion drop distribution was improved slightly, so we should all be getting equal loot. And they even increased the drop rate of getting a defense in the Abyss of Demons. Seems like they can't really make up their mind on that one. They took out the defense so that way you would have to go to the sewer, but they didn't want to completely revert the Abyss back to how it was. The Hive now has an increased quest spawn and a likelihood of a dungeon drop. So again, we have a higher chance of indulging in this new content. And they added some feed power to Soulbound and pet skins. So good on Deca for getting to that so quickly. And that will wrap things up here. Again, very pleased with this update. A lot of content to work with. Good job. Thank you guys so much for watching. Wow, that took a while. And as always, don't forget to check out the next episode whenever I post it, which will probably be soon. All right. See ya.